want to give too much away, but goddamn, I think people are going to kill us for this show. Me anyway.
Yeah, we'll see if they want to kill us though. And what are we talking about? We're talking about Serenity on this week's 0 Point Reviews. All right, Kevin, let's get started on this bad boy. What'd you think?
Oh, you know what? This was a fun movie. Like the TV series was a lot of fun. Everybody knows what happened to it. Next podcast episode is going to be about it. It's
Oh yeah.
the canceled TV series, and the fact that they had a movie made to have closure to it was really something special at the time. I want to say they might have been the first ones to really start that as a would be trend, where a show could have a future beyond its cancellation date. But it's just they ended it, like hard stopped it in ways that I don't know was good for the franchise. Like the couple choices were made.
Yeah, how it goes from the show to the movie and the time in between that it took to actually got it to get greenlit and made and then released. It felt like it was just a bit long for that to actually happen. It's almost like somebody watched Galaxy Quest and they're like, "Hey, we can make that concept and we can just go ahead and run with that."
They did use the set from Galaxy Quest at the end where they're fighting over the fucking blades and shit. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's the set from Galaxy Quest, those sons of bitches.
Yeah, they just didn't have Sigourney Weaver going, "Holy," and then whatever word it was.
I don't remember, but yeah, it was like it looked just like that. Or the scene on Arkham City
Yeah.
where you've got to like lower the Batmobile down through the blades without getting the Batmobile crushed to shit.
Oh my, yeah, I remember that part of the game.
So, but what about you? Did you catch any of this when it was in the theater?
Oh, I saw this midnight showing when it first came out day one. So,
Wow.
yep, that was back in Madison, and that was a good time. There was quite a few hardcore fans that were there for the Brown Coat Brigade, as I call them, and it was fun. I had a very good time. I think everybody else had a very good time. Afterwards, however, it definitely felt like, I walked out of the theater and I'm like, that was freaking awesome. Loved it. But not everybody came out of that theater feeling the same way. Some were like, it was okay. It's not really what we were hoping for. I don't remember like bits and pieces of specifics that they didn't like, but like the overall feel was it was good, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, like I remember it. This is the second time I've seen it, but there were many scenes that I remember being pretty great. Specifically where River beats the shit out of or kills all the Reavers in a few moments. And I remember that being like just as epic as the sword fighting in Kill Bill. And it really wasn't. It was very short, actually.
I know, right? I was actually wrote that down myself, and when I was watching it, I'm like, why isn't this as big and epic as I remember it? It's
I,
like,
I
am I just looking at it with like rose tinted glasses here? Like my memory is not jiving with what I thought was epic of this movie.
I don't know if it's the rose tinted glasses or if we just got spoiled earlier this year with Terminator or last year with Terminator.
Could be that. Well, and also we've seen much higher quality shows, better choreography through the years, better visuals, things of that nature. Not to say the visual effects in this aren't good, but just in general with like the way things are shot, the way things are, angles they take, and just overall like editing with the cutting of certain fights. And we're just a little bit spoiled from all the good stuff that's out there now.
I I think that is part of the problem. And this was 2005, was it?
um I did not write that down.
I did, yes, 2005. So
Ooh, points for you, sir.
thank you. See, I know stuff sometimes. This is where we're at that point where, like, we've talked about it with Tremors. Some of the CG was really getting there. Other CG was just
Not there.
not barely there, like made for sci-fi. I think they did better in Firefly with their special effects than what they did with Serenity. And I'm not sure if that's because Universal was expecting more of them, or if the budget was different, but it seemed like they did more with less when it was during Firefly.
I kind of felt the same way too. Not that I didn't like the special effects in the movie straight up, because clearly there are times where it's like, this is stunning and beautiful, and there's other times it's like, are we watching a holodeck episode on Star Trek where they actually did like a real green screen, and you kind of like feel like it's not quite there and it should be. I mean, there's other shows that are made not too long after this or a little bit before this that actually they could pull this off, and I'm not sure like what was lost in translation.
There was a few things wrong with like this scene, for example. It was that bad green screen, like we were just talking about, and it had awkward editing. Like, I don't think everyone was at the same place together at the same time when they were filming a lot of the conversation where the kids were saying, like, in the Independents were basically the Reavers. They're savages to the Alliance kids. That was edited really weird, almost like a Raymond Burr type thing. And I know I say that all the time. It was like what they did with on Valentine Bluffs, but that was due to COVID. People can't all be together in the same place at the same time. So
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was the case, or if, again, Universal was just cracking the budget.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I'd almost like point at the editor for just the way they were taking certain camera angles or whatnot, because I can't believe they didn't have other options to choose from or pull from.
Well, they speaking of their different camera angles, this one again, this really bad green screen. I don't know what the choices were with these desks, but like, if you could see back there, the desk is probably called the tea bag. It's basically, you're teabagging it. And you write your notes down and stuff like that. Like, that can't be comfortable on you, really. Like, you're just grinding up against this piece of wood.
See, I'd be like, where's my beanbag chair?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, that would be the way to go. I would greatly
Because
appreciate
if you're looking
that.
for comfort, but I guess you're trying to give it an actual logical explanation is maybe because you're sitting in that particular position, you have to pay more attention and you have to watch your posture, because this is a little more high society. So clearly they got something in mind, but just the pure aesthetic of, you never showed this in the show. All of a sudden you're just giving this to us now in the movies. Okay, what is going on here? It's very it can be construed very suggestively, so.
Well, there is a lot of suggestion when it comes to Joss Whedon movies and TV series and stuff like that.
As you are suggesting yourself.
Yeah, I think Josh puts a lot of himself into his art, basically, like his likes, dislikes, opinions of people, things like that. And I think that really translates through a lot in this. It's very noticeable looking back now, especially after like the whole Justice League thing and problems that they had with the Avengers. Like, people know him better now. And looking back with that hindsight, you do see a little bit in Firefly.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Joss, but he is a talented writer, director. Just there's been some unfortunate things that have come out about him, and that's too bad. But we're largely separating that. We're obviously cracking wise here. and having some fun with this. But it can't avoid the point of discussion on the story of him these days and how he's not really in the public eye and whatnot. But hey, here we are.
I want to say he's done a lot of good for pop culture.
Oh, fuck. We start with Buffy.
So again, I want to say he's done a lot for pop culture. No, I didn't mind Buffy. Like the first 4 seasons were pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way that I'd heard he treated some of the cast members.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to. Yeah.
Like apparently he seriously shit on James Marsters because everyone wanted him and Buffy to hook up or what have you, or him and or Spike and Buffy. And like Joss totally took it out on Marsters. And I'm just like, whoa, that's fucked up. Like he's not the internet.
Well, you can't predict who's going to be popular, who's not going to be popular. And I think if I remember right, he was only intended to be just a one-off character. He was only supposed to be on one time, die, and never come back. And he just proved to be way too popular with fans. And, well, got to pay the man if you want to keep him around. So,
and well, that pissed off Joss because he didn't want to take any story in that direction. It's like, well, okay, but at the same time, you got to throw them the meat that they want a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's apparently not known for being very patient, tolerant. He's very his tolerance level, again, we'll keep going through Serenity. Like he's not a very tolerant person.
No, but I'm not going to play devil's advocate too terribly much, but you could say that about a lot of directors, writers, producers in Hollywood. He is not by himself in this. There's quite a few that are just as bad or not worse.
Yes.
Or have done much worse. So I think, we got to put it in perspective that, yes, some of the things we've heard are not good, but he is far from the worst. And I'm not justifying nothing. I'm just saying, like, don't forget, there's others out there that have done way worse.
Oh, sure. We talk about a few of them all the time. Bill Freakin.
Oh, yeah. Just don't weeden this review on me.
Yeah, right. There is a lot of metaphor and illusion within this franchise, and I think it was really this last watching where I kind of noticed a lot, like the Alliance versus Browncoats is pretty much the North versus the South in the Civil War, and I'm like, so we're glorifying the South?
Well, that's one way to look at it. It was more of a rich versus poor people argument, really, because of the inner planets versus the outer rim planets.
Oh, sure.
You get this a lot more in like The Expanse of a more current show that people might be aware about. Because if you haven't heard of Serenity or Firefly and you're just like, all I know is about like maybe The Expanse of recent memory. It's a little bit like that with the Belters versus the inner planets, like the Mars. Is God damn it. I'm not showing my fandom very well for The Expanse. But if you've seen The Expanse, you kind of know what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of different class warfare going on here, and and the divisions between the different planets and where you're at in the solar system.
Yes. And it's because, again, not going over U.S. history too terribly much, but like slavery was only one very small part of what really started that war.
That was states' rights, people.
Yeah, and so they show a lot of that similarity in this, and it when it really kicked in, I don't remember if it was in an episode of Firefly or if it was at the beginning of this, where someone asks Mal if he's got any last words, and he says, "I reckon we'll rise again." I'm like, can't say that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but there are some things from this era that they were a little, I guess you could say was some of us, I don't know, maybe not just me, but other people, but other people would find like we're a lot more tolerant of this kind of this. Our sensibilities today are very much changed. So things that flew back then don't fly now. So that's kind of why they did it back then, but it even still didn't fly a whole lot back then either.
No.
So, you just bring it to today and it's like, oh, they might have had to have tweaked a few things.
Yeah. I mean, it's much easier to look at Mal as like a cool ass pirate like Han Solo, than somebody pissed off because he can't, have his own plantation and whatever the fuck else. But the Alliance is definitely a shitty government, like regardless of North, South, illusion, whatever. They are the Galactic Empire. And if you watch a lot of them and the way that Mal and the rest of the crew look at the Alliance, it's almost like that scene in Red Dead Redemption 2, where Dutch, John, and Morgan are all sitting there staring at the city, and like Dutch is telling them, like, before we go in there, know what to expect. It very much has that disdain for the upper class.
Right.
And it was cool. And then again, in this, we see it's not just the upper class, it's that the government hides so much shit to cover its own ass. Which is always relevant.
They do. Hey, we're the ones who created the Reavers and killed like 90% of the population of one of our colonies. You're welcome.
Like, I had notes going for that for a moment because I didn't remember what exactly that was.
I didn't even remember that at all. I'm like, oh shit, because it actually played off as a twist, almost like it was brand new for me because I did not remember that at all.
Yeah, I didn't until really after the fact. But because I'd written down, they have this moment of dialogue where they're like, okay, Miranda's here, and then there's all this shit here, and we got to go through it. And he's, Mal saying, what's the problem? Oh, that's Reaver territory. Nobody goes there. All they do is raid. They go back and forth and raid things. Nobody goes out there. I'm like, well, then why do they go back and forth all the fucking time? Like,
right.
That doesn't fucking make sense. Any hunter's going to fucking go somewhere else if the food's not there. But then you find out that, of course, the class that you see at the beginning that River is a part of was on the planet Miranda. Somehow, I think Simon got her off of the planet before that happened, or she was taken off the planet before that happened. And they were trying to mix some kind of chemical in the oxygen. What was it to make people like less anxious for the terraforming? And it made them so docile that they just stopped doing anything, like breathing, working, moving, anything. That was 30 million people that was on that planet. And 10% of that 30 million had the opposite effect, where they got hyper aggressive, ruthless, angry, savage, like the zombies on 28 Days Later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to reference, is like it plays just like 28 Days Later with the rage fires.
Yeah. And before that, I've been thinking to myself, gosh, like the way that they talk about the Reavers is kind of Joss is kind of like pointing out like indigenous cultures and stuff like that, not just in the States, but in different areas. And I said that to my wife, and she's like, dude, please don't say that on the show. And I'm like, but it's true. I saw that. I saw it for real. And the first thing I see when I see this Reaver is dreadlocks. And I'm like, what the hell? It looks like the thing from that fucking movie, with the little fucking doll that makes that lady go insane or possessed or what have you.
I see that and I think Predator.
Oh, the lips there? Oh yeah. I don't care how fucking pissed off I am. I don't dig on those piercings and shit, but it's like the Reavers weren't they were a little bit more ethnic than what they should have been. But that aside, I do love that they are, see, what was it? They will skin you, eat you, rape you, and kill you.
And if you're lucky, in that exact order.
Yeah, and I'm writing it down. And I ask my wife, I'm like, baby, does this sound awkward? And she's like, got this look on her face, like, yeah. I'm like, okay, thank you, baby. Bye. And just come back out here and start working on my slides again. But the Reavers, like, finally getting to see them in Serenity was awesome because, like, you get cock teased throughout the entire Firefly season. And I think they really did mean to eventually end up here at some point. But they had to rush it felt like. And there's loopholes, like plot holes with the Reavers for me. It's like, why are all the dead bodies still there if all these cannibals and shit were like running all over the fucking planet? There's like fucking 90% of the population just dead, dying there, waiting to be eaten or raped, whatever, skinned. And they just don't really talk about that, or why don't they go further beyond the planet, being as rageful as they are?
Well, they do, because in the show, you actually find the Reavers scattered throughout the solar system.
Oh, well,
because some do venture out. I consider this more of like their home base. So this is where they largely come back and they hang out and wait until whatever floats their boat next, you know.
Well, again, that's 30 million people, 10% left of what's that entire planet's populace is now dead from River Tam.
And she's killed like a ton of them.
She is responsible for the genocide and extinction of the last remaining inhabitants of Miranda.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. And if you really want to think about it, the more fucked up way to think about it, like the Tam family are the antagonists of the entire franchise. Like everything bad that happens to everybody is because like the Tams come into contact with them.
Yep.
And that sucks for them.
That is true.
That really sucks for them. But yeah, bless Mal. He's got too much honor to like really let River go. And you see that in this, and I liked that.
Well, he also kind of attaches to her in the show as well towards the very end.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yes.
See, that I don't remember. Like, I liked...
Yeah, it's one of the last episodes that they kind of have a little bonding moment together. It's like, okay, all right, you're all right.
Yeah. But this scene, this was the scene that was like way too short. I thought this lasted forever and was graphic as shit and just beautifully fucking choreographed.
It was like 1 minute.
At best, it was the bar fight scene that was a hell of a lot more brutal. And it was just like, it was a cacophony of different types of fucking people that were getting fucking, that were patrons of the bar. Like there was just different caricatures of people. Like there was a, she kicks one blonde lady backwards off these stairs, and her pants were like very much like 90s, and the hair was very much 90s, and it looked like somebody's older sister from the 90s. It's like, she just kicked that fucking older sister, that soccer mom. And there's the kamikaze pilots over there, and the fucking ice dancers over there, and the U.S. pilots that way. They went all the way down the fucking like patron list of fucking Airplane, all the way down to the fucking Girl Scouts just about fighting.
Yeah.
It was a pretty goddamn good show. It was like, or fight. They had road warriors in there. Like, all kidding aside, there was like a whole bunch of different type of like bastards, villainy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
one of those kind of bars. I mean,
it's their version of Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that part was kind of cool. But I felt really bad here. This is gonna be hard to see, but it's like he takes a big old handful of poor Jane's ding dong. And all I could think of when his face just like, was Chevy Chase going, Moon River.
She could take almost everybody out.
Yeah, like she got to do a lot of neat shit. And I'm glad we watched. Well, no, I can't say that. I wish we would have watched this first and then gone on a Terminator, because then this would have been a little bit better, I think. Because god damn, we see her do some amazing katas, for lack of a better term. Like she just the dance and fight choreography that they do, like spliced together, was the shiznit in Terminator.
Yeah, they accentuated her positives a little more than they did in this show or
Yeah,
this movie anyway.
yeah. So, but yeah, that was the last I had for the bar fight scene. Like there was just a lot of caricatures.
Yeah.
I think there was even a Russian Cossack at one point, and she like rolls off the guy on the fucking stairs.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah.
I'm not making this shit up, you guys. Just fucking watch this again with adult eyes. It's not that good, and it's pretty naughty. But again, going back to the fucking Galaxy Quest scene, the big fight scene at the end.
Yes, Ninja Warrior style.
Very much Galaxy Quest, but up top was like Ninja Warrior. And those poor guys, I feel bad for the actors up there, because they're on wires, which are uncomfortable as shit, but they still have to kind of hold themselves up because they have to look like they're straining. And then how many fucking takes does that do? My hat tips to them.
Because they could do a pull-up and you can't.
That's true. I cannot. I cannot.
Not for nothing, a lot of the sets they did shoot on were pretty unique.
Yes, and it was actually kind of neat to see that they had the same sets for the most part. I liked that part until, like, again, once you're inside the ship and they relight everything, it's like, but it's so blue and dark, and it goes against the grittiness of the show.
But it's the new cool thing, Kev.
I know. I hated the naughties, or whatever the fuck they're called. I absolutely hated it. It was not my decade at all. Nor was this last one. They sucked.
Around this time, I was, this was around the time of like Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, Battlestar Galactica. So there's a lot of shows that were growing darker and grittier and changing their light schemes a little bit. So they all had like this identity, and I don't know, it felt like Serenity was kind of pulling too much from that instead of just focusing on its own thing. Because they had a good thing with the show. I know you want to incorporate more for a wider audience, so you can't exactly jump too far into the lore, and you can't go too close to what the show looked like. You want to present it differently so it looks like it's bigger, grander, and more epic in scope. But the movie wasn't bigger, grander in scope, and you can't make it look like it is because it's really not. Correct. And that's kind of what I had a problem with the movie overall. Is I'm not saying it's a bad movie. However, to go from a show into a movie like this, and you're trying to get a bigger audience, I feel like the big misstep was this played out more like an episode of the show than actually a movie from the show. And I know people are going to hate the example I'm going to provide, but Star Trek, The Next Generation, what did you get first? You got Generations. Not really epic in scope, didn't really do that great. What did you get after that? First Contact, bigger, grander, bigger stakes. Everybody had a role to play in that movie. Generations was largely Jean-Luc and Shatner and Malcolm McDowell. Yeah. That's it. In this, you had the same thing happen. You focused on Mal, great. You focused on River and Simon a bit, great. Where the fuck was everybody else? For more than half the movie, all your secondary characters that actually did something in the show are sitting on the shelf. You had a Nara the last 30 minutes of the movie just sitting around filling out a scene. She did more in this show, and she proved she could do more in this show. So basically Kevin's screen, when it converts back over to him when he starts talking, is they nerfed half their characters, which was completely ridiculous. And I didn't think this when the movie came out. I didn't think it when I bought it on Blu-ray, but I'm watching this years later and for the first time in a long time, and I'm feeling like what I watched was just another episode of this show. If this was supposed to be the movie based from the show, what the fuck were you doing with all of your side characters? And you can disagree with me to your heart's content. You needed to go more First Contact. You needed to go more Wrath of Khan. You needed to go more Voyage from Home or The Voyage Home. You needed to go bigger, grander in scope. You can't just take, oh, hey, there's this plot point from the show that we never finished. Let's just hit this. You can still do all of that and still use everybody else. To focus on 3 characters instead of the other 4. Okay, you killed Book. One thing.
Off camera. Well, the battle.
Yes and no, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you killed fucking, I don't even want to say it. Because even when it first happened, that pissed me off then. It pisses me off now. You killed my boy. And yeah, it's a personal thing with me. You killed one dude you didn't need to fucking kill.
Correct. The shepherd dying is natural for the story.
And served a purpose.
Yes, and that is the nature of a shepherd, to sacrifice for the rest of his flock. And this Serenity crew is his flock. And he even makes that analogy in a way to Mal.
Yes. And
God, I mean, I fucking love Book, but he was in this for less than 3 minutes. He really was. It wasn't enough. And it was very unceremonious. Like they land going back to Shepherd, to lay low, basically, and the Alliance has wiped out the entire colony. And they find out that the Alliance has wiped out every other fucking person that's ever given them safe passage. So it was basically the process of elimination. They just happened to fucking kill Book. It was everybody that they knew. So I mean, that was pretty fucked up. But Wash was unnecessary. I did not understand that. Like, did Tydick just not want to come back anymore? Were you pissed at him? Was he pissed at you? I don't know. But that one caused me to be like, okay, well, that was fucking stupid. And then two, it robbed Zoe. Like, Gina Torres should have had a lot more melee to spend. She could have and should have. And there just wasn't enough time for Zoe to go as batshit crazy as she should have.
Right. Completely agree. They let her do a little bit. However, you didn't really dive into any of that. If you were expecting to do a second movie and then get into it, you can't be writing like you're writing a trilogy. You got to write. Yes, you need to have a plan, but you also have to understand what you're providing to your audience. Are you satisfying current fans, trying to get new fans? Or are you trying to do both? Gotta pay off with your characters, and just taking out Wash like they did it still made no sense. He was one of the heartbeats of the goddamn movie. For what little he was in it, it's still like, that's our guy. That's somebody we relate to. He's not this. No, not all of us are former military to relate to Mal. Nobody is really relatable to Jane. Yeah, he's relatable. I'm not saying he's not. Just saying, like, who's a former mercenary who's still a mercenary? Like, but Wash is a everyday guy who is flying the goddamn boat. What they think, like, oh, well, we're just going to train River at the end to take over for him eventually. Like, at that point, are you going to kill off more characters in the next movie so that you're just down to Mal, River and maybe just
Inara.
Jane, and then everybody else is dead because you also treated Jewel State's character like another throwaway character.
Oh,
And I
well,
like Kaylee.
I love Kaylee's character, and she had a couple good parts where
Yes, she did.
basically she's talking about that she basically hasn't gotten laid in over a year, and Mal freaks out because that's his little girl. Basically, she is the baby of the ship, and he's not wanting to hear this adult talk. And then when they're all like fighting and like, trying to bottleneck the Reavers 300 style at the end, Simon finally says that he regrets not being with her, and she gets this look and she's like, sexually? And she says, yeah. And it basically comes down to is like, she asks if he'd stick it inside of her, and and he says yes, and she's like, fucking cocks that gun like Princess Vespa and just nukes everybody.
She's like, I want to live, and just starts mowing motherfuckers down.
Will kill for cock. And I was like, hell yeah.
Gotta have your standards, I guess.
It was
Gotta feel like it's
shit.
on the line.
And there was a lot of freaky sex shit in this show. Like, again, pointing out more of his fucking weird likings and things. And then going back to Inara, you said there wasn't enough of her. The part that we see her at, I don't even give a shit what she's doing. The most important or weird fucking thing in that, take a peek at this. What's that right there? She's smelling soiled sheets. Like, what the fuck?
Well, to be honest, we don't know if those are crumpled
Rebecca.
sheets or folded sheets. But
Yeah.
still.
Oh, we don't know that for sure. But I'm figuring it's post-coital.
But we got a shtick to maintain on this video series. So hey,
I'm just saying. And then it ends with, again, she
Oh, I know where you're going. Yeah.
I don't know why this is a thing. It's fucking disgusting. Why there's not a picture of it online until I put it up there, I don't know. When Kaylee finally gets her greasy little hands on Simon and throws him down to the fucking floor, River's face comes down out of the ceiling and is watching her brother fucking down below. Really? Like, I know that's the thing on Pornhub now, is like siblings or step siblings or what have you, but 2005, I'm still not sure that was okay. Kind of gross.
Yeah, that was. I know they were trying to play it for laughs, but at the same time, that you think about it for more than a split second, and it's like, I don't know about that. I mean, I understand they're going with the fragile mind of her, and she still thinks she's like 5 years old and doesn't know the ways of the world yet. She can smoke everybody within 5 seconds and outsmart most things in even less time. But I don't know. It still doesn't play right.
Why would they do that? And it's like, I can't even get in trouble for this. Like, they did it.
Yeah, that's what they shot. Although you put the kitty cat up there, not them.
Oh, all hail Ceiling Cat. He watches us all masturbate. But
Everybody's a voyeur in this movie, and so is the audience because of that scene.
They make you feel gross about it too. They again.
What would have been funny is she could have said something like, "Brother, what are you doing to her?" And then have him go, "Kate or River," and just yell at her. Play it like a sitcom. If you're gonna do something like that, just go completely overboard with it,
Put the like cowboy hat on the knob or some shit.
Because you don't know how long she stays to watch and lingers on it. So
Well, I don't know. once those engines got going, somebody needed to help Mal drive.
Gotta hit that afterburner somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice at that scene that got to end with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, was maybe that why they kill Wash? Was so they could have that ending? Because that just doesn't seem like it's worth it. Like you could put Wash in the infirmary or some shit.
Right, and they did that during the show, not necessarily with Wash, but when they wanted to kind of evolve a character or move a piece around, they would be in the infirmary, or they'd be off planet doing something, or Inara was visiting another planet doing something else, then coming back. There's ways to move parts around to make it work. But it almost feels like the script got rushed, in my opinion.
I think so. And a good friend of mine absolutely loves this franchise, and he very much wanted it to, and still wants it to come back. I
would watch.
I would. I'm still angry about Wash though.
Well, yeah. I'd come back out of some curiosity to see, like, okay, can you bring it back, or can you just play it like that was just a bad dream for part of that movie and retcon it?
Maybe
it's almost too late for some of us older hardcores. But
well, the only other thing I could think of is again, Book is killed by the Alliance, Wash is killed by the Reavers, so it's like they need to avenge this group, and then they have to avenge that group. Still not, again, all that necessary. Could fuck him up, didn't need to impale him and then like pull him through the fucking whatever.
Well, they survived the accident, and then he got impaled literally after all that happened. So it's like, oh my God, come on.
Yes, with no ship previously behind them.
Right.
Because, yes, again, one of those flicks. It's not a bad movie. This is a fun flick. I mean,
yes, we're being a little critical, but you should be. We're fans. We want this to be awesome. We want it to be good. And when it first came out, yeah, we felt that way, but we're looking at it now and it's not quite holding up like we had thought or remembered.
Well, I mean, how did this?
And no movie's perfect.
Oh, no, not really. Afterlife. But yeah. I like it. And I just derailed myself then. There's the 0 point.
No points for you.
I know.
I'd say if you want to look at an example of a show that follows itself up well with something a few years later and it tries to wrap itself up, look no further than a TV show called Farscape. They did a mini series. That's maybe how this should have gone. Instead of straight to theaters, they should have just done a little mini series of 3 to 4 episodes and hit all the bullet points of everything you wanted to do with those episodes. Because when you break down the Farscape miniseries, the Peacekeeper Wars, about every 15-20 minutes, it feels like that would have been the point of an episode. That would have been the point of a second episode. And yes, it feels rushed. However, it's told very well and it keeps it going and it hits all the storyline points that you could have had for a full year, and they did it in 3 hours. Yeah. An hour and a half each. So together, it's like 3 hours. If you had the budget, why didn't you just do a mini series? Get it back on TV somewhere. But they probably thought they could make some real money and launch a film franchise at this point.
I'm not sure. Again, when I tried watching the beginning of the relighting the Firefly or the Serenity, Joss had made the comment that once they got the movie going, they were dealing with the same people, the same problems, the same issues, just on a grander scale. And it's like, oh, well, that sucks. That sucks hardcore. And I could see that having to answer to the same fucking people, but then now on top of that, you've got Universal that
they do their thing too.
Yeah.
We saw what they did with Chronicles of Riddick to Pitch Black. I mean, geez.
I don't know. Brandy watches that. That's not my thing.
I love all those movies. I'm just saying.
I'm not a big sci-fi fan. That's shit. There goes that note. That's why I was very surprised that I liked this. And then everyone says, oh, it's just a Western in space. I'm like, well, I don't like Westerns or space. But I do like this, and it does very much work. And poking fun at it, riffing, making observations. Yes, some of the shit doesn't age well, but a lot of it really does. And the part that ages well is this cast is dynamite together. Like,
Oh yeah, that's undeniable.
yeah, like, and I feel bad that the movie got put out into the theaters the way that it did, with people not knowing that it had this fucking culture to it already. And I think that may have lost a lot of people. And I don't know if maybe that hurt the fucking franchise going forward even. But at this point, it's been what, 20, almost 20 years. And
2005, that's 18 years.
yeah. And I know a lot of people are still holding that torch. I
Oh yeah.
just don't know that there's enough oil to light it. I just don't.
Well, even Nathan Fillion, he's been on some interviews in the last year or two, and he gets asked every once in a while, like, hey, would you come back for another round of Firefly? And of course, he has the answer of, I would be interested, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if he's saying that, and he's friends with Joss, and from what I remember from one of the interviews, he didn't see or experience any of the things that, we've heard in the media. So he has like, he would be interested, but there's just nothing going on. So I have my doubts about how much power there is behind getting another one made.
Well, that, and he had his own career after that too, with things like Castle.
Oh God, I know. He outstanding actor. I think he's doing a show called The Rookie or something, which is another police show.
Oh, that's cool.
Plays like an older person becoming going through the initial stages of being a police officer. It's supposed to be pretty good, but I haven't seen it myself, so I don't know.
I'm just having the hardest time like figuring out like that we are old, and everyone that was just slightly older than us is incredibly old at this point. Yeah. And that's not incredibly old yet, but damn, we're getting there.
Yeah, I wanted him to be Nathan Drake, and
yes,
we got Tom Holland instead. So I like Tom Holland, but like the Uncharted movie was, I'd rather watch Serenity 100 times than watch that one again.
That's what Brandy said, and I was kind of like, well, you bought it. Like,
oh, she bought it. I only streamed it.
So she did that too. I don't even think we've opened the package yet.
I think it was on Netflix when I watched it or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, again, yeah, he was kind of that spitting image of Nathan Drake that you would imagine to have seen.
Well, there's like a fan film or something he did, and it's like a very short thing, but he did do Nathan Drake, and it was glorious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That would have been very cool. My favorite thing, I think, of his that I've seen is Slither.
Slither is awesome.
Bill Party is the baddest motherfucker on the planet, and I love him.
Yeah, I would recommend Slither to anybody who wants a good, like, Earth-based sci-fi horror movie. Shit is awesome. James Gunn. Awesome movie.
It's just about most of the cast of Guardians 1 and 2 and a couple other people. What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she thinks I'm talking to her.
Oh, Alexa is so sweet.
Yeah.
She's your Inara.
Sorry, honey. God, wasn't she so baby face in this movie? Like,
yeah.
And it was nice to see her starting to get to fight in Serenity. That was the great upgrade for her, like you'd said. Like, there's not enough of her, but you do get to see her throw a punch or pull that bow back, even if it does look like the biggest Nerf bow in the fucking
yeah, I know, right?
Which I don't know why it comes off in the movie looking that way. It looks like a fucking Nerf bow from the 90s. And you watch the behind the scenes, and it's just this beautiful, like, Greek type bow.
Yeah.
Looks nothing like the way it did coming out in the movie or the final
That's the way it goes sometimes, I guess.
Yeah. So it's like I wanted to make fun, and I was trying to find the pictures like, well, can I just get what it actually looked like so maybe I could really rip on it? And it was the exact opposite of what I figured it was going to be. I was like, well, fuck, I can't joke about that. Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was nice to see her getting the beginning opportunity to start to kick ass the same way Summer did, but we don't really get to see that with her until later on in Deadpool.
Right.
And even then, it's probably not enough. If they brought her back for the third movie, it would be nice to see her get to beat a little bit more ass with
I
Wade.
think we would see her again in a Deadpool 3. I mean, I also liked her in like V the miniseries, Stargate SG-1, and she was also Gotham. She was in Gotham. And I thought she did great in Gotham. So
This entire cast is just marvelous. There's nobody in this
they all have
movie.
excellent careers post this, even though poor Ellen Tudyk keeps getting shows canceled on him.
No, not Resident Alien.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Well, and
was
he did one called
good.
oh shit, Suburbia.
Sounds about right. Or it sounds familiar.
Yeah, with the girl who was in like the Evil Dead remake.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that was a pretty good show. I like that one. But that got canceled. Poor guy's like, get that man a real fucking movie or a show. I mean, I liked it. He wasn't iRobot, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
wasn't that awesome of a movie for Will Smith either. So
I, I want to say it was better for Alan than it was Will.
yeah,
For me, anyway. But I'm not a big Asimov fan. So, wait,
yeah.
was that?
I'm just a big Ellen Tudyk fan. So
Yes, yeah, yeah. Again, my buddy Craig, like when he was trying to tell me at first who Alan was, and like trying to mention a movie that I would know, he was talking about the pirate guy in Dodgeball.
oh yeah,
I don't think I'd even seen Dodgeball at that point. I was like, okay. And once I finally saw it, it's like, okay, yes, that motherfucker is funny. And he is. It's like you
Dodgeball
can't
is fucking great.
yeah, you can't see him in something and not dislike him. You can't.
No, he's got a certain way to him or charm, whatever it is. He's a natural, and he's fantastic. And God, even I remember real quick about Dodgeball. Like I'm like, they made a fucking movie about Dodgeball. How stupid could this get? Then I see it, and I'm like, that is one of the best comedies I have ever seen.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's got Rip Torn in it, and we all know how that went, but it was goddamn funny. Everyone in it was hysterical, including Rip Torn.
Yep. And the Ocho.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
You could dodge traffic, you could dodge a ball. You could dodge a gunshot, you could dodge a ball. Then everybody scatters because it got gun out.
Oh shit. Makes me think of
I mean, we could talk about that movie for freaking forever. That's such a fun one too. But Alan Tudyk is just a class act and an awesome actor.
He is, and dancer apparently. He helped choreograph the Peacemaker intro.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah, some of the butt shaking is Cena, some of it's Alan.
Go Alan, go Alan.
And it's like, wait a second, those are two very different sized people.
Oh well, yeah, a butt cheek stunt double or whatever.
God, what was I? Something happened in the news the other day, and I was like, stunt cock.
Yeah.
My wife had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. I'm like, I'm just gonna go away before she yells at me now.
And before I start yelling at you, is there anything else left you want to talk about with Serenity?
No, just that if anybody that was in it hears this and hates me, I'm sorry. If anybody that enjoyed this franchise and hates me, I'm sorry. I do enjoy it. I enjoy picking on things even more, though. But this was a lot of fun. It's a good movie, and it's a good closer to the series, which shouldn't have been canceled.
I agree on all counts. And hey, you only criticize the things you absolutely love. We're not like hating on this because we hate it, blah blah blah, or hate anybody, blah blah blah. No, this is what we do on this show. And if you're new here, hey, now you know. Knowing is half the battle. All right. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We want to give a special shout out to Chad Peterman and Skeeter Slater for being our Patreon supporters. Please check us out at patreon.com/SunsAndShadowsCast and stay tuned for our outro bumper for all of our social media. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at SunsAndShadowsCast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.